What we have in front of us, I suppose, to kick off today is Wolf Blass Silver Label Cabernet Shiraz from 2010. It's around about 19 euros, very widely available. You'll see it in O'Brien's, you'll see it in Tesco's, and you'll see it in all, most major off licenses. What you're looking at here is a dry and dry yet spicy red wine. Cabernet Sauvignon is the Bordeaux grape, and that's its centerpiece birthplace. But in fact, really in the 1960s and 70s, Cabernet Sauvignon got a rebirth of interest when Australia started making it, and when it started being made very broadly in Napa Valley, because suddenly the wiry, thin, weedy, metallic rubbish that most of us could afford from Bordeaux was replaced by full-fruited, ripe, leathery cedar wine with a touch of sort of chocolate and kir, that kind of cherry covered in chocolate kind of taste. Really kind of opulent kind of wine. And that is the taste of the class growths. So when you're talking about a £200 or £300 wine from Bordeaux, Chateau Margaux, Lafite, that's what you're tasting. And it's very easy to spot those as being very nice.
Yeah.
The real problem is to find something that's €50 that has a little bit of that. And that's where Bordeaux has always had its trouble. What happened here was that a man called Wolf Blass, there is a man called Wolf Blass, and...
is his first name Wolf?
His first name is Wolf.
Cool.
He's Wolfgang,
yeah.
And his friends called him Wolfie.
Yeah.
And I've interviewed him, and he's a fantastic man, absolutely fantastic, sort of an economic refugee from after the World War II, Eastern Europe, Eastern Germany, got over the wall, so to speak, and managed to escape really to Britain, where he learned English and continued his studies as a biochemist. Worked for Harvey's Bristol cream fame in Bristol in the sort of late 1950s, early 60s, where they were a hotbed of technological advance, and had a great time. And then he was sent off, because he was a scientist, to go down to Australia and work on sparkling wine there and see if he could cure it. So he was sent off by his English merchants to see if he could cure this nonsense. And when he got down there, he fell in love with the place and fell in love with the wines that were being made there. And he started making wine himself. He became very good at it because a lot of the winemaking in Australia at the time was very rustic and very casual, and mainly they were making sweet wines. So what they needed was just big, bulky thing with tons of sugar that was high-cropped, and they were going to go off and they were going to fortify it and turn it into tawny ports and all kinds of things that was very highly desired at the market at that time. And that's why Shiraz was planted so widely, because it really worked very well for tawny port. He went down there, saw there was a lot of Shiraz, but saw there was some Cabernet, and made a beautiful Cabernet in a dry style, adding a bit of Shiraz to it, and variety other, some Chardonnay as well, and it was a roaring success. He was also a bit of a marketeer. He imported the first Volkswagen Beetle into Australia, drove around it, and he's horse fanatic, absolutely horse fanatic.
Okay.
And so he was kind of obsessed with going around to racing, and the betting slips that they had at these courses, where they would have red, blue, yellow, and black for illiterate farmers who were coming in betting. So 2-to-1, a certainty was a black one, sort of 40-to-1 was yellow, and red, and green, and so forth. And so what he did was he adapted those for his labels. So you had Wolf Blass green label Cabernet, Wolf Blass yellow label, Wolf Blass orange and black and silver, and that immediately clicked with his market, and he made a tremendous amount of money. God bless him.
Yeah.
And then in the 1970s branched out, and he started making very, very good wine. So he was the first person really to go. He went kind of backwards. He started off as a mass marketeer, and then later on in life he started producing these high, sort of £100 expensive wines. And today his company now, or the Wolf Blass brand, I suppose they would call it these days, the Wolf Blass itself, the winery, now makes sort of these black and gold and silver labels, and what we're tasting here is the silver label, which is their about second from top. It's a really ambitious, really interesting Cabernet with Shiraz in it. which is not a sacrilege because...
Well, actually, I was going to ask you, because people are often snooty about blends because there's an assumption it's the crappy Shiraz grapes mixed in with the crappy Cabernet grapes.
Exactly, and it certainly was. I'm sure it could be used in that way. But in fact, he was kind of reverse engineering really nice wine that he tasted when he was growing up, which turned out to be Bordeaux's from the early 20th century, which, before the appellation control rules were brought in the 1930s, what they did was they snuck over sort of the Massif Central over to the Rhone, got a couple of truckloads of Syrah or Shiraz from the Rhone, and they used to pour it in and blend it in with their Cabernet Sauvignon to give it a little boost, a little illegal boost. And so he's making the great wine that Bordeaux now doesn't make in that medium category. And surely with global warming and with our openness to blends, they could be thinking about planting a little Syrah and giving us a little Cabernet Sauvignon Shiraz blend from Bordeaux, in which case they might be able to offer this at $19.99 rather than
not bad.
Something that's
not bad at all.
50 quid. So not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. I do like a Cabernet Shiraz blend, if I'm partial to that. We just drank as well a Wolf Blass mixture between Cabernet and Shiraz. Very nice, but there's a better one that I have had a sip of in advance, I must say, and oh my God, is all I can say. Anyway, let's move on to our second wine of the day. Now, is this this is...
Well, this is kind of we have a 2.5 wine and a half, which is which came in there, which was the Black Label Wolf Blass Black Label Shiraz, the 2005 vintage, and it's a stunning. It's the 33rd example of it. They only make this in good years. 55% Cabernet Sauvignon, then 40-ish percent, about 37% of Shiraz, and a dab of Malbec. This is their top flight thing. It's €110 a bottle.
Mother of God,
and is supercharged. It's supercharged.
Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous.
Really, you could like when you're walking towards it, the heft of fruit just lifts itself out of the top of the glass and kind of biffs you on the nose in cartoon style. And what you've got there is somebody has the huge rugby ball-sized sort of Cabernet fruit being pushed towards you and wafted, that heavy fruit, set fruit, but great acidity to it, lovely and fresh, and a super finish. It's an opulent wine that's playing at the top of sort of the Bordeaux game, which is now 300, so at 110, in some ways, can I even say this, it represents great value for people who would be thinking about spending 300. But what it is there's a wine for Christmas. There's wine, So there's 5 bottles of a regular wine heading towards this, and for €100, you won't go far wrong with the Wolf Blass Black Label. They were also named. Wolf Blass was named International Red Wine Maker of the Year this year in London at the International Wine Fair. So a big honour, and they do it very well. So it's a really good example.
Absolutely gorgeous.